Welcome to an Introduction to Economics, brought to you by Parkbench Tutors and narrated by David Hopcroft. For more information about Parkbench Tutors, please visit parkbenchtutors.com. This short podcast is the second of two that introduce the idea of welfare economics. In our first podcast on welfare economics, we talked about efficiency. In this podcast, we are going to talk about equity. Remember, this is a part of normative economics, since we are looking at how national income and wealth should be shared. The key word here is the word should. We are asking, what is a socially desirable distribution of income and wealth? Economists are only one group who try and address this question. An economist sees social welfare in terms of efficiency and equity, trying to answer the question, what is fairness and what is economic justice? A number of standards have been suggested to try and assist in providing an answer to this question. One school of thought is that every human being in society is of equal worth. If we use this standard, then we can say that a distribution of income and wealth becomes more equitable if it moves closer to an idea of absolute equality. Implementing such an idea is not easy. If I earn $40,000 and person B earns nothing, then on this standard I should be taxed at 50% so that we both end up with $20,000. However, this does not really encourage me to work, so I might settle for working for $30,000, in which case person B is actually ending up getting less. On the other hand, if the tax rate was lower, then I may want to earn more, and person B could end up with more than $20,000. But I will still end up with more than person B. The approach is sometimes criticized because it assumes all individuals have an equal capacity to enjoy. An approach that has gained interest is that of social evaluation. This considers total social benefits and total social costs. Note that it attempts to quantify. If the social benefit exceeds the social cost, then it is assumed that policy will increase the welfare of society. This is a part of what we term a cost-benefit approach. Another approach is that of social conscience standards, where it is assumed that someone who is wealthy will donate to charity to help the poor, and that this will help to enhance their own social welfare. This in turn leads to a more equitable distribution of income and wealth. The underdog standard is one that relates to what we see as government intervention. The relative share of different income groups is considered, then poverty levels are defined. The aim then is to raise families who are below the poverty line so that they will be above the poverty line. One way of doing this is to provide benefits to those below the poverty line and to tax those who are well above the poverty line. Recent thinking suggests that we should also consider how succeeding generations are affected by equity. If we continue to use natural resources, then there will be fewer available for the next generation. If we continue to pollute the environment, then we are going to affect the social welfare of future generations. On the other hand, technological advances will benefit future generations, as will any increase in accumulated capital. There is a natural conflict between the ideas of efficiency and equity. Remember that when we looked at efficiency, we considered the idea of Pareto efficiency, that it was not possible to increase efficiency without making one individual better off and another worse off. Now with equity we are talking about doing just that. We are talking about making some people better off and some worse off. Let us take a closer look at an exchange box diagram. All the points on the contract curve that has been drawn are Pareto efficient. However, they are not all equitable. At J, individual A has a large amount of food and cloth, but individual B hardly has any. This is an efficient point because it is impossible to make B any better off without making A worse off. We can say that this point J is highly inequitable. A better distribution might be point K, even if not on the contract curve, but it is in the center of the box, so it represents an equal distribution of goods. Here are two simple examples of the conflict between efficiency and equity. The European Union operates a policy of agricultural subsidies where the welfare of farmers is improved at the expense of the taxpayers in the community. Is such a distribution preventing movement of labour and capital from one industry to another where it is needed? If there are large surpluses of food, then surely overproduction is not desirable. More recently, the automotive industry has been bailed out by government funding. How desirable was this? On this diagram, the curve UU is the community grand utility frontier. The vertical axis is measuring A's utility, and the horizontal axis is measuring B's utility. 3 social indifference curves are shown. The highest social indifference curve reached by UU is at point Z on social indifference curve 2. This point is called the bliss point. There are 3 tests called compensation tests that are used to determine whether a given policy change will increase or decrease social welfare. Economists most frequently use the Hicks-Kaldor test. This is based on the idea that there is a net improvement in social welfare if those who gain place a higher value on their gains than the losers do on their losses. The problem here is that it does not really address equity. The rich can get richer and the poor poorer, but if the rich consider their gains highly enough, the test could be satisfied. The Skatowski double test says that if no compensation is paid, but the losers persuade the potential winners not to go ahead, this will also satisfy Hicks-Kaldor. We should note that no compensation is actually paid. Little further suggested that even if the first 2 are satisfied, there still needs to be a check that the overall distribution of income and wealth is not adversely affected. Cost-benefit analysis is seen as more relevant these days, particularly in government departments concerned with transport, health, and education. Social benefits should be maximised in relation to social costs. So an increase in social welfare takes place if the gross social benefits exceed gross social costs for a policy change. An important consideration when making use of cost-benefit analysis is the time frame. The social costs may take place in a small time frame, but the social benefits may be seen over a longer time frame. Future benefits should then be computed at present value to see if the benefit-to-cost ratio exceeds 1. If it does, then there has been an increase in social value. This ends our second podcast on welfare economics. Thank you for watching and for listening.